I'm here today to film a lure review, and I'm going to be reviewing the Stumpjumper, the good old Stumpjumper. This is the #1 Stumpjumper. Stumpjumpers were designed by John Ellis a long time ago. I'm not going to estimate what year it was, but I'm pretty sure it was the 80s. I remember as a kid or a teenager in the 1980s reading Freshwater Fishing magazine back when Bill Klassen had a beard, and there was always a lot of stuff about Stumpjumpers. Back then they were made of timber. Like most lure companies or most things that businesses grow, they got bigger and bigger. It got harder and harder for John Ellis to keep up with demand, hand-making timber lures, and they started getting made offshore, and they got picked up by a distributor, which is JM Gillies. So these days they are made overseas, most likely China or Taiwan or somewhere. I really don't know, and to be quite honest, I don't care. And they are made en masse at an affordable price, and they are still the same good quality lure that they were back then, except they're plastic these days. Let's talk about the #1 Stumpjumper. It's quite heavy. It's a very good casting lure. It's got a nice curved bib which forces up against the water, allowing the lure to swim like that and dive quite steeply. It comes in a large range of colours. It's got good quality hooks on it, and it's an all-around great lure. The only real negative I've got with the #1 Stumpjumper is the tow eye at the front where you attach your line or your clip. It is absolutely imperative that you use some sort of a swivel or a clip or a line clip or something on there, because that isn't actually a wire tow eye like it is on many other lures. It is flattened steel, which means that it will rub through your line and end up breaking your line. So if you say you're using braid and you're using a long monofilament leader and you tie the leader to the tow eye, it will cut through. So make sure you use, whether it's a split ring, I use little Hawaiian snaps, and there's quite a few different little line clips and stuff that I use. Use a really good quality one that can't come open, and you won't have any problems at all. Quality wise, they're fantastic. They get a bit of paint scratched off at the back where the hooks rub. Most lures do that, and Murray cod will even put a few scratches in them with their teeth. But this one in particular I've had for quite a few years, and it is still holding its colour really well. I've never had the paint come off in big large amounts. I've never really had any quality issues with the Stumpjumper, and they are a proven fish catcher. They're not the best cod lure on the market in my opinion. When I say that, I think they are the best in the sense that they're the best all-rounder. But as far as cod lures go, there's some lures that will dive steeper. There's some lures that are bigger, so they're better in that department. They've all got specialist areas of where they're the best. The #1 Stumpjumper I think is the best all-rounder. It's big enough to be big, it dives steep enough to be classed as a steep diver, and it comes in an awesome range of colours. There are heaps of different colours, and my favourite is this one here, which I'm going to get to in a minute, which is the bright green coloured ones. That's a #2, and I'm going to get to that shortly. #1 Stumpjumpers have accounted for probably more big Murray cod in Australia than all other lures put together. My personal best, my biggest ever Murray cod was 98 centimetres, and it was caught on one of these, a #1 Stumpjumper. It started off red like this, and it was probably the only lure that I've ever had a quality issue with. It started off red, and by the end of that summer it was pink, because I kept the same lure on all year, and this is 7 or 8 years ago. And in the car, in my old Subaru, in the back of the car with the sun shining through the window, that red slowly faded bit by bit to become more of a pink colour, and once it turned pink it caught heaps of fish. A big pink #1 Stumpjumper that nobody else had. My 3 biggest Murray cod, they're all in the 90 centimetre range. I've got one that was exactly 90, one that was a little bit bigger, maybe 91 or 92, and one that was 98 centimetres. Of those cod, 2 of them fell to the big #1 Stumpjumper. The 98 centimetre one fell to the pink Stumpjumper that I had, that was the faded one, and the 91 centimetre fell to a sort of a yellow and black coloured one, and the 90 centimetre one came on a #2 Stumpjumper. So my 3 biggest cod were caught on Stumpjumper lures, and 2 of them were the #1 Stumpjumper, which is this one. In the range of Stumpjumpers, I think the #1 Stumpjumper is the cream of the crop for JJ lures. Let's move on now to the #2 Stumpjumper. This is the #2 Stumpjumper. It's quite significantly smaller than the #1. So you see that? It's a good all-rounder. You still catch cod on this. As I stated a minute ago, I have caught Murray cod in the 90 centimetre size. My second biggest Murray cod was on a #2 Stumpjumper. But they're also a great yellow belly lure and a great redfin lure. For a lure of their length, they're not an overly deep diver. So if you're in Blowering Dam or Lake Yield and you want to get down 20, 25 feet, that's not going to do it. The big #1 Stumpjumper will get down to about 20 to 25 feet depending what line you're running, but this one probably not get down much more than 12 or 13 feet. So it might not be ideal in Lake Eildon or Blowering Dam or somewhere like that, but in Lake Mulwala, in the timbered areas, when you go off the submerged river and over into the submerged river flats, let's just hypothetically, let's say Hogan's Road boat ramp, because I know the lake quite well. You put in a Hogan's Road boat ramp, go across the river into the timber, and you're in about 8 or 9 feet of water, and these are ideal in there. I would still prefer to run a really big one, because I just love big lures for Murray cod, because they've got big appetites like me. I'm a bit like a Murray cod. I don't go to McDonald's and order half a burger and a kid's meal. I want the most food I can get on my plate, and Murray cod are much the same. But they are great in shallow areas looking for Murray cod. In smaller waterways like the King River or the Broken River, they're quite good. And and they've got a really good action. They never fail to swim properly. Just like the big number 1 Stumpjumpers, they've got the flattened steel toe point, so make sure you use a speed clip or a swivel of some kind. Now we're going to step down a size to the number 3 Stumpjumper, which is a lot smaller than the number 2 again. This is primarily designed as a redfin and trout lure. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of it as a trout lure. I think the trout like a smaller or even a more slender, long and skinny body minnow, like a rapala and stuff, just because that's what they're used to seeing in their environments, trout and blackfish. Trout in rivers and streams are usually in fast-flowing waterways, and fish in fast-flowing waterways aren't fat. And the Stumpjumper is quite a fat-looking little lure. But I have caught trout on the number 3 Stumpjumper, and they certainly do work. That's just not a favourite for me. They are a great redfin lure. They come in the full range of colours, the same as the size 1 and the number 1 and number 2. They are particularly handy in little creeks and little lagoons and waterways and stuff where there's redfin. That is where they stand out the most, particularly the brighter coloured ones. In lakes like Eildon and Blowering Dam, Epiloch, wherever you want to go chasing redfin, I find as a trawling lure that they don't get down deep enough for my likings. They'll get down 8 or 9 feet if you're lucky, with light line, and they will pick up redfin. But in lakes with clear water, for example, Lake William Hovell, most of the redfin I catch up there are in 25 feet of water or so. That won't even get down half that far. There are little lures on the market that will get down that far and that will catch fish. So it's probably not best in that environment, but in a smaller creek, like a smaller creek or a smaller dam, a private dam or a lagoon, the number 3 Stumpjumper will clean up. Now the next one down, and I haven't actually got one on me, I have got some somewhere but couldn't find them, is the number 3.5 Stumpjumper. Now, put that one back, sorry. This is a number, sorry, I've got Stumpjumpers hanging off my tripod left, right and centre. This is the number 3 Stumpjumper that I just showed you. For a long, long time, this was the smallest one that J Lures had made. Now, there is a 3.5, and it's been out for 4 or 5 years now, I suppose, maybe a bit longer. The 3.5 is half that size again. It's very light, and it's a great trout minnow. It works really, really well in creeks. Now, I do have some problems with it. It's not the best trout minnow. It's very light, so it doesn't cast as far, and being the same sort of wide body pattern as the rest of the Stumpjumpers, in strong currents, if you try and reel it in against the current, it has a tendency to wash up on its side a little bit just because the wide body catches the current. But it's not all doom and gloom. In smaller streams it works absolutely fantastic. I lent one to my mate Brett Corker a few years ago while we were fishing a little creek, and he just cleaned up with it. The trout were climbing all over it. They come in fantastic trout colours, and best of all, with all of the Stumpjumper range, and this is one of the things that I love the most about Stumpjumpers, they're an affordable lure. They are not a dear lure. These can range anywhere from $11 or $12 up to $14 or $15. There are cod lures on the market, similar quality to this, that catch similar lures, similar sorts of cod to these, for up to $40. Now, they have got their good points, don't get me wrong. They're probably Australian made, which is why they're dearer. They're probably handmade. They're probably bigger, and they probably dive more steeply, and that's why they're so expensive. But as a general all-rounder, the number 1 Stumpjumper is ideal for Murray cod. It's right up there among the best of them in my opinion. The number 2 is fantastic for yellowbelly and Murray cod in smaller waterways and shallower waterways. It's a great all-rounder. The little number 3 is great for redfin and yellowbelly in shallower water, channels in particular. If you fish in irrigation channels for yellowbelly and redfin, the number 3 Stumpjumper and number 2 will go well, particularly the number 3. And the little number 3.5 that I don't have with me at the moment is really good in trout streams in smaller waterways that aren't raging.